By the summer of 1940, the war in Europe has changed fast. In September 1939, Germany invaded Poland. Britain and France declared war. Within months, fighting spread across the continent. In the spring of 1940, German forces moved west. Denmark and Norway fell. In May, German armies struck through the Low Countries and into France. By June 1940, France was defeated. British forces escaped from Dunkirk, but they left behind most of their heavy equipment. Europe was now largely under German control. Only Britain remained outside German reach. Across the Channel, Britain prepared for what might come next. Germany's leader, Adolf Hitler, believed Britain could still be forced to make peace. He did not want a long war in the West. But Britain refused to negotiate. The new British Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, made the position clear. Britain would continue the war, even alone. For Germany, this created a problem. The German army could not reach Britain without crossing the sea. An invasion, planned as Operation Sea Lion, would only be possible if German aircraft controlled the skies. That task was given to the German Air Force, the Luftwaffe. During July and August 1940, the Luftwaffe began attacking British airfields, radar stations, and aircraft factories. This period became known as the Battle of Britain. German bombers were escorted by fighter aircraft. Their goal was clear: destroy the British air defense system. Britain's defense rested mainly on the Royal Air Force, especially Fighter Command. British pilots were often outnumbered. Aircraft losses were heavy on both sides. Radar stations along the coast gave Britain early warning, allowing fighters to be sent up only when needed. By early September, neither side had achieved total control of the air. German losses were rising. British fighters were damaged, but not destroyed. The Luftwaffe had failed to break the RAF. At this point, German strategy began to shift. Instead of focusing only on airfields and radar, German planners turned their attention toward Britain's cities. London was the largest target. It was a center of government, industry, transport, and population. The docks along the Thames were vital for food, fuel, and war supplies. On September 7, 1940, the Luftwaffe launched its first large daylight attack on London. It marked a new phase of the war. The air battle was no longer just about planes and pilots. Now, civilians were directly in the path of destruction. Long before the first bombs fell, Britain knew air attacks were coming. During the 1930s, British planners studied bombing from the First World War and from conflicts in Europe. They believed future wars would bring heavy attacks on cities. Civilians would be targets. Survival would depend on preparation. By 1939, the government created a nationwide civil defense system called Air Raid Precautions, known as ARP. ARP wardens were trained in every neighborhood. They checked blackouts, guided people to shelters, reported damage, and helped the injured. Many were volunteers. They wore steel helmets and carried whistles, notebooks, and gas masks. Blackouts began at night across Britain. Streetlights were turned off. Windows were covered. Cars used dim lights. The goal was simple: make cities harder to see from the air. But blackouts also caused accidents. People fell on dark streets. Traffic deaths increased. Shelter was the greatest concern. The government encouraged families to build small shelters in their gardens. These were called Anderson shelters. They were made of curved steel sheets, partly buried in the ground. They offered basic protection from blast and debris, but they were cold and damp. For people without gardens, other solutions were needed. Public shelters were built in parks and streets. Some were deep underground. Others were only reinforced basements. Many civilians chose to shelter in subway stations. The London Underground became a place of refuge. Each night, thousands slept on platforms, wrapped in blankets, listening to bombs falling above. At first, the government discouraged this. Officials feared panic and disorder. But as attacks increased, the underground became an accepted shelter. Emergency services were expanded. Fire brigades trained for mass fires caused by incendiary bombs. Hospitals prepared for large numbers of wounded. First aid posts were set up in schools and churches. Blood banks were organized. Ambulance crews practiced working in darkness and smoke. Food and supplies were also protected. Britain depended heavily on imports. Docks, warehouses, and rail lines were vital. Civil defense teams planned how to keep these systems running even after damage. Repairs were expected to happen while attacks continued. Despite these plans, no one truly knew what a modern bombing campaign would feel like. Exercises and drills could not recreate the sound of hundreds of aircraft overhead. They could not prepare people for nights without sleep or for homes destroyed in seconds. When the first major attack hit, many systems worked as designed. Sirens warned the population. Wardens guided people to shelter. Firefighters rushed toward burning areas. But the scale was larger than expected. Bombs fell not just on targets, but across entire neighborhoods. Fires spread faster than crews could control them. Water mains were broken. Roads were blocked by rubble. Civilians were now part of the battlefield. As night followed night of bombing, preparation turned into endurance, and London entered a new kind of war. Night after night, the bombing returns. For civilians, time begins to change. Days are spent repairing damage. Nights are spent waiting. Sirens become part of daily life. People learn the sound of aircraft engines. They can tell the difference between bombers and fighters by ear. Families sleep in their clothes. Shoes are kept close. Important papers are packed in small bags. Some people never undress at night. In working-class districts near the docks, the danger is constant. These areas are close to warehouses, rail lines, and factories. Bombs fall often. Streets are hit again and again. Entire rows of houses collapse. Fires spread quickly through wooden roofs. Many civilians lose their homes in minutes. When buildings are hit, rescue is slow and dangerous. Neighbors dig with bare hands. Fire crews work under falling debris. Gas lines burst. Water pressure drops. Sometimes, fires burn until morning because there is no water to stop them. Inside shelters, conditions are hard. Crowded spaces smell of smoke and sweat. Babies cry. Elderly people struggle to breathe. People sit for hours in silence, listening to explosions above. Dust falls from ceilings. Lights flicker or go out completely. Sleep comes in short moments. Children are often evacuated to the countryside, but many return. They miss their families. Some parents refuse to send them away. Others cannot bear the separation. Schools close, reopen, then close again. Lessons move into basements or shelters. Normal life becomes fragmented. Death is unpredictable. Some bombs kill dozens. Others fail to explode. One street may be destroyed, while the next remains standing. Survivors walk past bodies covered with blankets. There are no speeches, no ceremonies, only quiet movement and shock. Grief becomes private and fast. Despite the fear, daily routines continue. Buses run when they can. Shops open with broken windows covered by boards. Factories restart within hours of being hit. This persistence is not dramatic. It is necessary. People do not stay strong because they feel brave. They stay strong because there is no other choice. As civilian pressure increases, the strain reaches leaders and planners, and the air war begins to reveal its limits. From the German side, the Blitz is meant to break Britain's will. The plan is based on air power. German leaders believe heavy bombing will destroy industry, stop transport, and crush civilian morale. If the population loses hope, the government may seek peace. The campaign is directed by the commander of the Luftwaffe, Hermann Göring. He promises that German aircraft can defeat Britain without a land invasion. In practice, the task is harder than expected. German bombers fly mostly at night to avoid British fighters. This makes them safer, but less accurate. Crews rely on navigation by rivers, rail lines, and city lights. Blackouts reduce visibility. Clouds and smoke hide targets. Many bombs miss their intended locations. Instead of hitting factories, bombs fall on homes. Instead of destroying ports, they damage streets and parks. The damage is wide, but not always decisive. German aircraft also face limits. Bombers must cross the channel, fly long distances, and return safely. Each mission risks losses from fighters, anti-aircraft guns, and mechanical failure. Trained crews are difficult to replace. On the British side, defense continues to adapt. Radar stations provide early warning. Even at night, they track incoming raids. Anti-aircraft guns ring the city. Their fire lights the sky. Searchlights sweep through clouds, trying to catch aircraft in their beams. The Royal Air Force develops new methods. Night fighter units grow. Pilots learn to hunt bombers in darkness. New equipment slowly improves detection, but success is limited in 1940. Fires become a critical problem. German bombers drop large numbers of incendiary bombs. These small devices start fires across wide areas. Firefighters are forced to choose which fires to fight. Some areas are left to burn so others can be saved. Leadership decisions carry weight. British leaders choose not to withdraw from cities. Factories are repaired under fire. Transport continues as soon as tracks are cleared. The government avoids dramatic announcements, focusing instead on steady information. For Germany, expectations begin to clash with reality. Despite months of bombing, Britain does not collapse. Production continues. Civil order holds. Morale bends, but it does not break. The Blitz reveals a hard truth. Air power alone cannot decide the war. As winter approaches, the pressure shifts, and the campaign moves toward its most destructive phase. By late 1940, the Blitz reaches its peak. The raids now come almost every night. Some last for hours. Others return again before dawn. The pattern is clear. Waves of bombers arrive, drop high-explosive bombs first, then incendiaries. The goal is to break open buildings and start fires that spread. December brings cold weather. Nights are longer. Smoke hangs low over the city. On December 29, 1940, one of the heaviest raids strikes London. Bombers target the city and the docks. Incendiary bombs fall by the thousands. Fires start across a wide area. Water mains are damaged early in the attack. Fire crews fight with limited pressure. They pump water from the Thames when they can. Many fires are left burning because there are not enough crews to reach them. Flames light the sky. Churches, offices, and warehouses burn through the night. Roofs collapse. Streets become blocked by rubble. The heat is intense. Sparks are carried by the wind and start new fires far from the original bombs. One building remains standing amid the destruction, St. Paul's Cathedral. Fires burn around it. Its survival becomes a powerful image, but at the time, there is no celebration. Firefighters work without pause to protect it from nearby flames. Across the city, civilians shelter underground. Many have been awake for days. The sound of explosions never fully stops. Dust fills the air. Some shelters lose power. People sit in darkness, listening. German bombers continue to arrive until early morning. By sunrise, large parts of central London are damaged or destroyed. Smoke rises for hours. The smell of burning wood and fuel spreads across the city. This raid is not the end. Others follow. But something begins to change. Despite the destruction, essential systems keep working. Trains run on repaired tracks. Offices reopen in damaged buildings. Docks resume limited operations. The bombing is severe. Yet Britain does not fall. And as losses mount on both sides, German leaders begin to question the campaign. Why early 1941, the limits of the Blitz are becoming clear. German raids continue into January, February, and March. The attacks are still dangerous, but they no longer carry the same weight. Bombing damage remains heavy, yet the results do not match German expectations. Factories damaged by night are repaired by day. Transport lines reopen within hours. Civil administration continues to function. The British government does not break. Losses also rise for the attackers. German bomber crews face constant danger. Anti-aircraft fire improves. British night fighters slowly become more effective. Navigation errors increase as crews grow tired. Aircraft crash on return flights or land in the wrong places. Each lost crew is hard to replace. Weather becomes another enemy. Clouds, rain, and strong winds reduce bombing accuracy even further. Smoke from earlier fires often hides targets completely. Many bombers drop their loads blindly, then turn back. German leaders begin shifting priorities. The Luftwaffe is needed elsewhere. Preparations begin for a much larger campaign in the east. Aircraft, fuel, and crews are slowly diverted away from Britain. The final major attack on London comes on the night of May 10th to 11th, 1941. That night, heavy raids hit the city again. Bombs strike residential areas, government buildings, and transport centers. Fires burn across wide sections of London. The House of Commons chamber is damaged. Streets are blocked. Casualties are high. By morning, the pattern is familiar. Smoke rises. Rescue teams move in. Repairs begin. But after this raid, the bombers do not return in the same numbers. The Blitz is not officially declared over, but its intensity fades. Large-scale attacks on London stop. Attention shifts to other fronts. What began as an effort to force Britain into surrender ends without that result. The city is scarred, exhausted, and grieving. Yet it still functions. And now, the full cost of the campaign begins to come into focus. When the heavy raids end, the damage becomes clear. Across London, entire neighborhoods are gone. Streets that once held rows of houses are now open ground. Piles of brick, wood, and twisted metal fill the roads. Burned-out shells of buildings stand without roofs or windows. The human cost is severe. During the Blitz, more than 43,000 civilians are killed across Britain. London accounts for a large share of the dead. Over 1 million homes are damaged or destroyed. Tens of thousands of families are left without shelter. Hospitals continue to treat the wounded long after the bombing slows. Burns, crushed limbs, and shock are common. Many injuries take months or years to heal. Some never fully heal. Death records are updated slowly. In many cases, bodies are recovered days later from collapsed buildings. Identification is difficult. Families wait in silence for confirmation. The physical destruction strains every system. Electric lines are cut and reconnected again and again. Gas leaks remain a constant danger. Water mains take weeks to fully repair. Rail lines are rebuilt under traffic pressure. Temporary bridges and tracks are laid to keep supplies moving. The docks suffer heavy losses. Warehouses storing food, fuel, and raw materials are destroyed. Fires burn for days in dock areas. Imports slow, but they do not stop. Emergency unloading systems are created. Cargo is rerouted to less damaged ports when possible. Civil defense teams are exhausted. Firefighters, medical staff, wardens, and rescue workers operate with little rest for months. Many are themselves bombed out of their homes. Some continue working even after losing family members. Official assessments begin soon after the worst raids end. Reports compiled by the British government show that while damage is widespread, total industrial collapse has not occurred. Aircraft production, weapons manufacturing, and essential services continue at reduced but steady levels. This finding matters. The Blitz was designed to cripple Britain's ability to fight. Instead, it revealed how much damage a modern society could absorb and still function. London is not victorious in any simple sense. It is wounded, grieving, and worn down. But it is still standing. And now, the long shadow of the Blitz begins to shape the future. As the summer of 1941 begins, London slowly adjusts to a quieter sky. Air raid sirens sound less often. Nights are darker, but calmer. People begin sleeping in their beds again, though many keep bags packed nearby. The habit of readiness does not fade quickly. Rebuilding starts almost at once. Temporary housing is set up for families without homes. Damaged buildings are patched rather than fully repaired. Bricks are reused. Streets are cleared enough for traffic, even if ruins remain beside them. Full reconstruction will take years and, in many places, decades. The psychological impact is deep. Many civilians suffer from exhaustion, anxiety, and long-term stress. Children who lived through the bombing carry the memory into adulthood. Loud noises still cause fear. Sleep remains difficult for some long after the war. At the same time, social bonds change. Communities that sheltered together form strong connections. Class divisions soften in shared spaces like underground stations. The experience creates a sense of collective survival, even among people who never meet again. Strategically, the Blitz leaves lasting lessons. Military planners around the world study the results. They see that bombing alone cannot force surrender quickly. They also see the immense harm done to civilians. Cities are now recognized as central targets in modern war, whether or not armies intend it. For Britain, the survival of London has meaning beyond the city itself. It proves that the country can endure sustained attack and continue fighting. This endurance helps shape later decisions, including continued resistance until the United States enters the war. German strategy moves on. By mid-1941, attention shifts eastward. Resources once used over Britain are redirected toward the invasion of the Soviet Union. The air war over London becomes a chapter within a much larger conflict. The Blitz does not end suffering, but it ends the illusion that air power alone can decide a war quickly. London carries its scars forward, visible and hidden. They become part of the city's identity. And with distance, history begins to ask what the Blitz truly changed. The Blitz was not a single battle. It was months of fear, destruction, and endurance. London was tested night after night, bomb after bomb. Homes were destroyed, lives lost, and routines shattered. Yet the city continued to function. Streets were cleared, fires fought, trains repaired, and food delivered. People adapted to survive. The experience changed how war was understood. Civilians were no longer just bystanders. They were part of the battlefield. Cities became targets. Governments learned that maintaining morale, organization, and civil defense could be as important as winning on the front lines. Technology, like radar, searchlights, and early warning systems, proved critical. Planning, preparation, and human resilience determined survival. The Blitz also shaped the British identity. Ordinary people showed endurance under constant threat. Communities formed in shelters, neighborhoods helped one another, and routines were rebuilt amid ruin. Courage was quiet, measured, and practical. It was not dramatic heroism, but persistence against relentless pressure. For history, the Blitz serves as a reminder of modern warfare's costs. Air attacks could destroy buildings and kill thousands, but they could not easily destroy a nation's will to survive. London's survival demonstrated that resilience, planning, and leadership mattered as much as bombs or aircraft. The city's experience influenced military thinking for decades, showing both the destructive power of modern weapons and the limits of terror as a strategy. The story of the Blitz is not about victory in a traditional sense. It is about survival, endurance, and the quiet strength of people under fire. If this story of courage and endurance moved you, share it. Remember the civilians who faced the skies of London night after night. Learn from history how preparation, resilience, and unity can carry a city through its darkest hours. Subscribe to explore more untold stories of World War II, where history comes alive in real places, real moments, and real people.